Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to watch our Mental Health Monday presentation this week. My name is Caitlyn, and I'm here with B. We are both mental health and wellness peer educators for counseling and psychological services here on campus. And this week, our presentation is going to be about self-care and how self-care works.
Alrighty, so just a little bit of an outline of what we're going to go over real quick. So we're just going to briefly touch on what self-care is, how it works, like how it works for your body, your mind, your environment, and then some activities on how you can perform some self-care. So let's get into it.
All right, first, what is self-care? Mental health is such a broad area of health when it comes to ourselves. It encompasses emotional health, social health, psychological health. It encompasses a lot of areas within our health. And self-care, what it does is it allows us to take time to breathe, to sit down and reflect and recuperate when it comes to our mental health in those areas. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. I feel like, especially with social media, self-care can be put on as like a grand thing. Like in order to do self-care right, you have to dedicate a whole day to it. You have to take a bubble bath. But really, it can be something small. I mean, obviously, you can have a spa day, and that would definitely help benefit your mental health, and it would allow you to take time to take care of yourself and reflect, but can also be small, like meditating before bed. Or personally, I like to I put on like a stretching video like on YouTube that plays like spa music in the back, and I just do stretches for like 15 minutes before bed, and it allows me to think about my day, think about the next day, and just take time for myself, I guess.
Absolutely, that all sounds wonderful. I've been making to-do lists for myself. Guess technically that also counts, right? But
Yeah.
how does it work, right? You perform self-care, you hear it, we talk about it. What does it actually do? Well, something it helps combat is burnout. And burnout is when you are you're going, and you're just not stopping because maybe you have pressure from an external source. Maybe you're just in a state where you're pushing yourself beyond your capacity. But burnout can lead to a lot of depression, anxiety related symptoms, resentment of that routine. Say if, the burnout is coming from a job that you really enjoyed in the beginning, but now it's pushing you to your limits. It can, make you dread going to work and stuff like that. So taking small self-care steps and having a self-care routine has been clinically proven to reduce or eliminate completely those anxiety and depression, symptoms. They improve your concentration, your focus. They minimize, if you're easily irritated because of that burnout, they can reduce that. I'm sorry, I'm getting like 10 texts right now. And then so it can help your mind, but it can also help your body. Taking those steps towards self-care can reduce physical symptoms, migraines, stomach problems, even like joint pain, back pain, because a lot of that stuff is psychosomatic. Stress can bring it on. But also reducing chronic illnesses such as heart disease, stroke and cancer, and things like that. And it also helps us get in touch with our spirituality, especially if you're not interested in the religious component of spirituality. Taking part in self-care can help you reach that spiritual self without having to commit to a religion.
And then here we have included, it's an outdated video. It is from over a year ago, but I believe that it touches on certain things that need to be discussed. I think that if we talk about any form of mental health or self-care, it is very important that we discuss how the pandemic has shifted everything. And this video just touches on it a little bit.
All right, let me know if you can't hear it.
Okay.
18% since last week. Nearly all 50 states are tracking, of course, with Dr. Ashton, all the major developments. We have a big number that we're keeping an eye on. That number, though, let me show you what it looks like. The number is 18. Doesn't seem like a big number, but this is why it's a big deal. COVID-19 cases peaked in January, but now global case counts are decreasing 18%. Since last week, nearly all 50 states here at home reporting a drop. That feels good, and that is good for us mentally to know that, yes, maybe we're going this direction, but still, you've always kept up with the mental effects of what we've been going through.
Mental, psychological, psychiatric, and now just published in the British Medical Journal, there is one of the largest studies to date, which shows what significant impacts people who have had COVID-19 could be dealing with. So they looked at 154,000 people with COVID-19 in their VA system, no history of mental illness 2 years before these people were infected with COVID-19. And in the time following diagnosis, they found an increased rate of depression up by 39%, anxiety up by 35%, and sleep disturbances up by 41%. So again, we tend to focus on the physical, the consequences below the neck. We can't forget about what's going on above the neck, and this is significant.
And what else contributes to these issues?
Well, things that have nothing to do with the effects of the virus, but are indirectly related. So social isolation, economic stressors, the loss of friends or family to COVID-19, all of that obviously stack the deck for psychological and psychiatric issues. But these numbers really got my attention.
You know, it's amazing. I know everyone here has felt this before. You take a COVID test and you're waiting for the result. Am I going to be able to go on the trip? Am I going to be able to go to work next week? All those things.
TJ, I didn't realize how much of a stressor that was for me until I actually got COVID-19 and then temporarily could breathe a sigh of relief.
All right, Dr. Ashton, thank you.
Yeah, some marked
18%.
Percentages there. So yes, clearly many of us are still feeling the effects of this still ongoing pandemic. Very stressful, very high percentage depression and anxiety happening all around the world. So it is more important now than ever to find ways to take care of ourselves to cope with these stressors.
And our final part of our outline is, how can I do it? How can I personally perform self-care on myself in order to take time to reflect and better my mental health? And these are all different methods of self-care, different little things, different big things that you can do to help take care of yourself.
Absolutely. So we're not going to run through these activities because they can maybe run a bit personal, right? Getting these private thoughts down here, but just to kind of show what they would look like and kind of an example on how to fill them in if you are to do these on your own. So our first activity is a self-care check-in, and it's just this little chart. You can write this in your phone, you can draw one, with your fancy markers, color code things, Google Docs, anywhere is convenient for you, and just a little self-care check-in. Maybe at the end of the week, maybe at the end of every day if you feel like it, or anytime is convenient to you. You just take a little check-in with yourself and you look at these self-care areas: quality time, time alone, friendships, peace, emotional, physical health, and you just kind of rate it. On a rating scale that is convenient to you, I put 1 to 10, but 4 out of 5 stars, anything that is convenient to you. And then you just kind of try to take a moment to self-reflect and say, how can I meet this need? How can I find a way to give myself some more time alone? Say my rating is out of 4, so I really want to bump that up. I've been feeling a little overwhelmed from being around a lot of people, so how can I better this need? And this little box here is where I would write it down. So that's just one activity. Let's take a look at another one.
And then this one is similar in a sense that it is also a check-in, but this is kind of like a to-do list, but for yourself. Obviously, I make to-do lists for my schoolwork and for chores I need to do, appointments that I need to make, and those to-do lists are stressful. But making a to-do list like this with things that you write down and you put into the air that you are going to do this today, as long as time permits, you are going to take care of yourself, and making a little to-do list that you can check off, or maybe it's not like a daily thing. It's just you have a list and you want to try them all and see how each one differently works for you. Self-care works differently for everybody. So maybe doing yoga isn't the best form of self-care for you, and instead maybe just watching your comfort TV show is a little bit better when it comes to reflecting and relaxing. And making a bank of those ideas and things that you can do just allows you to have something to look at when you are ready to perform self-care.
Definitely. And there's always that little boost of happiness you get just filling out the list. You're like, just a little bit you get from checking it off. Fun to-do list, right? All right. And then this, I wanted to throw this in here in between our little activities because we've got a bunch of activities we're going to talk about. But I just want to throw this in here from a civil rights leader, Audre Lorde. You may have heard of her, where she says self-care is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. And she said this particular quote decades ago at this point. But clearly it still makes sense, right? We're in a time where we need to take care of ourselves as an act of self-preservation rather than just something we can indulge in. So definitely I wanted to throw this in there just to give some perspective.
And then here is some self-care practice that you can do, sit down, reflect on.
I actually don't think we finished this slide.
Oh, we did not. Oh my gosh. Okay, I was just gonna wing it, I guess.
Well, despite being red, Mars is actually a cold place. But just cultivating that routine, what works for you, and finding kindness within yourself, within others, things like that. Here, you can do this one, Caitlyn.
I know that a very common form of self-care is journaling. It's something that I've been meaning to pick up for a while. And what journaling does is it just allows you to sit down and think and write and get everything off your mind that you want to get off. And how you can do so is you set a time for reflection. I know some people do it in the morning, some people do it before bed, some people do it only when they want to, like whether that be once a week or once a month. And you get a little notebook, or it can be paper, or it can be online, and you take it as a time to just not do anything else, not worry about anything else, but just focus on the task. And here are some questions that you can answer. What patterns do you notice, if any, like from your responses? So let's say that like you keep journaling about one specific stressor in your life, or you notice things in your day-to-day life via reflecting on it and writing it down. It can allow you to pick up on things that you might brush off if you didn't take time to reflect. Is there anything general you think you can do to facilitate self-care? Are there any small habits you can add into your life that will incorporate self-care in an easy way, such as getting up in the morning instead of immediately diving into everything, maybe reading a little book, or taking time to pray if that's something that you would like to do? And then what steps can you take to prevent burnout in the future? Most of us are students or staff members or caregivers, or you work a job to support yourself, or you work a job to support your family. And thinking ahead of what you can do to prevent getting overly stressed in the future makes a major difference in your mental health going forward.
This is kind of just an expanded version, where it's just a guided journal, and it's a journal where you're offered some prompts. They have different types of journals that offer different types of prompts. This is just as kind of an example, just to kind of get you to engage with yourself. Take a moment and think about the things you like to do and your experiences. So just some examples, 2 things you've never done, but you would like to try. Maybe you want to go bungee jumping. Maybe you'll never actually go, but if it's still something you would like to do, you can write it down. Or 3 things about this time of year. I put the sun on my skin because the sun's finally starting to come out. It feels good, right? And then just continuing other things, other formats, other prompts that you can take a look at just to think about, take a moment with yourself and think about.
And as we stated before in our first part of our presentation about what is self-care, we talked about the dimensions of mental health and how many areas of health mental health encompasses. And that comes back when we talk about the dimensions of self-care. Since there are different areas of health when it comes to mental health, there are different kinds of self-care to do to reflect and repair those specific areas of health. So for our first one is emotional. Awareness of emotions and how they affect your body and mind. I know I keep saying reflecting a lot, but reflection really allows you to see patterns in your behavior, see patterns in how you felt emotionally lately, thinking, okay, this week I've been really sad because, it's a specific time of the year that makes me sad, and just thinking about what we can do to make that better and reflecting on it. And then we have physical, taking care of your physical health ties directly to your mental health. A lot of people see working out as a form of self-care. Like I said before, stretching, I use that as a form of self-care. Drinking water, cooking, taking time to cook like a healthy meal for yourself is self-care. And then there's also spiritual, as we stated before, taking time to connect to a higher self. It can be religious. You can take time to read the Bible, read the Quran, but it can also just be meditating, lighting incense, being mindful, all those areas of spirituality, whether it be within yourself or a higher purpose.
And jumping back into our activities, we've got quite a few. So this is one that might be familiar to you called the 5-4-3-2-1 exercise. And this is something people usually have you say in the moment, but it is also something that you can journal if you want a more physical way, like tangible way to perform this activity. So you're writing down 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So engaging all 5 of those senses can be a very grounding exercise to take, because it gets you to be aware of all of your senses and your environment around you, which can bring you to a very mindful meditative state. So this can be something you do before you start meditating. This can be the meditative exercise. Very versatile thing to say, perform, think in your mind, speak out loud, write down, whatever is most comfortable for you.
And to piggyback off of that, it's very good at grounding yourself. I know personally, when I start feeling stressed within a situation and I feel maybe the oncomings of might be a panic attack, I do use that exact activity to ground myself and remind myself that, everything's okay, I'm here. But another activity we have is R.A.I.N, where it's an acronym that stands for Recognize, Accept, Investigate, and Nurture. And it's kind of the same thing as the 5-4-3-2-1 in the sense that you go through each step for the acronym. So for recognize, what emotion are you feeling personally? Let's say you are feeling sad, you are feeling angry, then we're going to move on to accept the emotion and see that, okay, I am feeling this. I'm going to allow myself to feel it, and I am going to just allow myself to feel it, basically. Next step is investigate. Why do you feel this way? Think about what possible stressors you have that are causing it. If any recent events occurred. It might be a time of the year in which you usually feel sad. Areas of that and getting down to the source of it. And then nurture. How can I cope with it? How can I make myself feel better? What forms of self-care will help? Should I seek out somebody to talk to? Things like that.
Yeah, I really like R.A.I.N because something that kind of you learn in tandem with this is this idea that a lot of the times when we are feeling these negative feelings, we feel them for so long. We feel them for hours, for days. Even in severe cases, we can go into depressive episodes because of it. And this accept part of R.A.I.N tries to tell you that a lot of the reason we feel them for so long is because you're trying to fight that emotion. So if you just feel a feeling, which sounds so simple, but is actually so complicated, it's so hard to master, to just let your feelings flow through your body in and out, you will feel the feeling for like 2 minutes, like max. Like they've done it's insane. They've done studies about it. It's fascinating to me. So that is why this R.A.I.N activity is so important, and you can get started like on performing R.A.I.N, just writing in a journal, speaking aloud, again, any way that is easiest for you in your daily routine. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it's really cool. But there is a route to mindfulness. You hear the buzzword mindfulness, meditation, self-care. You're like, okay, how do I do it actually? just take it slow. That is the biggest piece of advice. That's the best place to start, is to just slow down a little bit. Listen to the stillness around you. Try to find someplace quiet, of course. Maybe you're outside and the only thing you can hear is the birds chirping, but it's quiet, right? Take that in, let it sink in. You know, when you start feeling that relaxation, your body a little bit heavier, kind of take it back to the self. Inquire how you're feeling, the state of your breath, things like that. And in that, you can kind of arrive at a state of mindfulness. Sometimes you even do it on accident, right? Maybe you're drawing a picture and you're really getting into a groove, and then you enter like that flow state, right? That's all mindfulness is about, is just finding that place within yourself where you can connect with your body and mind.
Our seventh activity is a worry jar. And now this does not have to be a physical jar. You can view this more metaphorically if you want, or if you're a visualizer person and maybe visualizing and actually writing out and putting things into a physical jar works, that's also a way to do it. But you're going to write all your worries into a jar. Like if you're going to do it physically, you could have little sticky notes and you write down your worry, fold it up and put it in the jar and leave it there. And then so you're going to leave it, and then you're going to try not to think about them until you have designated time to reflect on your worries. Designated time where you can go through it and say, flip open the piece of paper and say, oh, my worry when I wrote this down like 2 days ago was I have a paper due. Let's take time to reflect how I'm going to get rid of this worry or better this worry. I'm going to set aside time to work on my paper and get it done. Okay, next worry that I wrote down. And kind of go through it like that, where you tackle everything that you've worried about. But most importantly, the fact that you were setting aside time to worry about it, or not to worry about it, but to work on the worry. Setting aside time for that is very important.
It absolutely is. And moving with this, kind of calling back to one of our first activities, the self-care check-in. This is kind of a weekly self-care chart where you kind of have a little routine that you do every week. And this is just a place to mark off the days where you do it. You know, these cute little hearts where the days you do your skincare routine, you stamp your little heart. Maybe you don't eat healthy on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but maybe on Friday you cook yourself something super, super healthy. So you mark it down. Things like that. Doesn't have to be every day, not super, pressure. There's no time limit to this. Again, just finding a groove that works for you. And at the bottom, little note, self-reflection, just trying to encourage a little mindfulness whenever we can, because coming out and just being in the moment is probably one of the best things you can do for your self-care.
And then here we have a mood tracker. I know these are very popular to do within journals. I know that you can also do them within websites like Notion. And what you do at the end of every day, or maybe you do it every couple of days, but you catch up. Self-care, I would like to emphasize that self-care, it does not need to be done every day. Don't make it a stressor. But you can write down things that might spark you joy, things that made you happy that day. So for instance, maybe this day, my dog made me happy. I had quality time with my sister, things that bring out the day that make it memorable and made me a happy person. And then you can also write down your mood. And most people do this like as a color-coded little chart thing. So that way at the end of the month, you can reflect and be like, oh, wow, like, this was a month full of a lot of stressors. And then you can take time to reflect on it that way and say, oh, well, it was exam month. That makes sense. But it's just a nice way to keep track of how you're feeling in a nice, fun, little color-coded way.
All right. Absolutely love the mood tracker because I love color coding. But activity 10 is a vision board. And a vision board can be a little complicated, can be kind of a more involved activity. It's kind of creating either a physical or a digital vision board. And a vision board is kind of a visual concept of like images, illustrations, or words. So it reflects ideas and things that you want to accomplish, maybe places you want to go, things you want to do, things you want to have. By the end of some undefined time period, whatever is best for you. So a self-care vision board is kind of an extension of that, where you make a vision board on ways you want to take care of yourself. So this is where you can brainstorm for self-care activities. You can go online, maybe look up certain exercises you want to try and embed, videos, pictures, or inspiring quotes that you enjoy. You can put that in your vision board just to kind of have everything in one place where you can kind of take a glance and have a little bit of reflection whenever you need it. And this is kind of what it would look like. So just like almost a collage of pictures and words. I want to have good relationships. I want to have money. This is my vision. This is what I want. Things like that.
And personally, I have a vision board that I have as my home screen on my cell phone. So that way, when I pick up my phone, I can see the home screen and be like, oh yeah, these are things that make me happy. These are things that I want to accomplish, etc.
I love that.
But then we also would like to emphasize that self-care is a journey. It is not something that can be done overnight. It is not a linear process, and that is a very famous thing that is said about self-care. It's not linear. You're not going to always feel better every single day. As we know with physical healings, like let's say you get hurt, you get stitches, that healing process, it has ups and downs. It's not going to keep linearly getting better until it's just all fine again. Taking care of yourself when you're feeling down can lead to better ups. So let's say you're having a bad day. So you take time for yourself the night before, you read, you journal, and then you wake up feeling in a better mood. So you have a better start to your next day. But also, when you're doing stuff when you're down can help you prepare for better ups, but you cannot always predict for when you're going to have a down. And just having an arsenal, a tool belt of ways to get yourself back up, get back on your feet, that is what the self-care journey is all about.
Very, very well said. I believe we have 2 more small activities. And this one is positive talk. So again, something you can think in your mind, or write it down. I would encourage you to either speak it aloud or write it down, because when you're just thinking it, it is very easy to kind of battle yourself mentally. You know what I mean? So this is just kind of a visualization of that positive self-talk. Just this little core phrase, I am awesome, and then I am awesome because, and then just writing things down. So I'm awesome because I care for my friends. I'm awesome because I'm a writer, and other reasons you can think of. So just trying to encourage you to look at the parts of yourself that you do like, because there are good parts to everybody, and trying to hone that.
And then we have a yin-yang self-compassion. So you have 2 different aspects to yourself, and you can pretty much compare those aspects of yourself. So let's say one aspect is you are comforting, and then you can think, okay, what action should I do for this? Like, what can I do to take care of my emotional needs? I'm a soothing person. What can I do to make myself feel calm? Validating your own feelings, what can I, maybe journaling, talking to yourself, words of affirmation, to validate your own feelings. And that can be one section of your self-compassion. And then we can have another area of self-compassion, which is, maybe, I guess, on the tougher side, I guess. So protecting, like, what can I do so that when people might say certain things about me, or when I personally think certain things about me, how can I make a boundary with it, and how can I just deflect it? Providing, what can I do to give myself what I need? Whether that be, okay, I'm really stressed, let me do this, let me take time to read, or it can be, okay, do I need to pick up an extra shift? Do I need to go grocery shopping this week? Stuff like that. And then motivating yourself. How can I motivate myself with kindness and support? And I know a way that a lot of us motivate ourselves can be through negativity. It can be through criticism, like, I'm going to study for this test because I feel dumb, let's say. You should not, that is a bad form of motivation. You should motivate yourself with, like, I'm going to study for this test so that I can do better because I know, that studying will allow me to get a better score because I know the material, stuff like that. So it's just two different areas of self-compassion that you can look on and reflect.
And those are our activities, and that is our presentation. This was a bit of a longer one, so for people who are watching right now, thank you so much for sticking with us. And then if you have any questions about this presentation, maybe even getting a link to some of these activities, you can either call Counseling and Psychological Services at this number here, or email UM-Dearborn caps at umich.edu. And then, of course, if you are ever in crisis, we do offer a crisis line. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.
Thank you.